how the hell have you done it?
Mate, I think if you'd have said this to me even 5 years ago, I'd have laughed you out the room. If I'm not scared, then I think I'm not doing something right here. I'm really badly in debt. Like, I don't really know how to get out of it. I don't really know what to do.
You went to a really posh private school funded by Grandad because he owned Ronnie Scott's. Why did the money stop at 11?
I was told it's because he wanted to toughen you up a little bit. I've made all these mistakes, so you don't have to.
24 grand. Sadly, that's not a huge amount of debt for somebody to be in these days.
Okay, how do I invest? How do I grow money? How do I manage money?
Putting 2 people into a WhatsApp group to start talking about personal finance, how did that happen?
I knew the power of like web. So if one of our picks did really well, to be like, up the gains. I was obsessed. And then we started leaning heavily into the like that I used to be in 24 grand worth of debt, but now I'm here. And then all of a sudden it just went whoosh.
You guys are doing 20 to 30 pieces of content a day, hundreds of thousands of followers, millions of views every single month.
I liken it to playing Xbox all day at 14, but I'm the main character in the show.
What is Gains app? And why the hell are you doing it?
I think it's 43% of Brits lose sleep over money. 7,500 have come over from the waitlist.
So over 50% of those people.
This allows us to help even more people, but it's visible.
And I think you speak common sense in a world where it's all very confusing. So as you can see, we have got an amazing show lined up. But before we get into the main content, please do me a favour. I know I'm begging here, but all of the podcasters and YouTubers have to do it. Please subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, click the follow button at the top right-hand corner of your app. And it will mean that you'll never miss an episode of Building the Brand. And you'll be massively helping us out as well. Let's get into it. Sammie, I have to ask as the first question, as a man who infamously advertises the fact that he was in £24,000 worth of debt and didn't really know how to manage his finances. How on earth have you amassed one of the biggest audiences in the UK helping Britain get financially fit, as you are so proactively, so honestly out there saying, I didn't know what I was doing, but now I know a bit and I'm going to teach you. How the hell have you done it?
Mate, I think if you'd have said this to me even 5 years ago, I'd have laughed you out the room that I'd be making personal finance content. I just kind of fell in love with it. And I think that kind of comes through in what we do. As we spoke off camera, like I'm just like, there's nothing hidden. I just say that I've made all these mistakes, so you don't have to. And I think that when a lot of these guys come on camera, they come on with this, like, here's exactly what to do. And here's the 10 best tips. And like, I think that kind of content has had its time and its day. People were looking for people that are like them and that they can relate to. And so I just lean into that massively. I put a post up on the weekend about, look here, you know, because you see on social media, you see all these like pristine showroom looking homes and people filming all around it. And I was like, look, here's a wall that I haven't done in 6 months because we ran out of money because we needed it for something else. And, you know, here's my dirty dishes and here's my untidy hallway and then people were like, oh my God, I really needed that. And we're trying to take that approach to everything. Like when it comes to buying a house and it comes to investing your money and when it comes to managing your money on a day to day. And like, you know, my debt relationship was because I was never given the keys. And what I always say to people is that actually this stuff is really, really simple. It's just made to sound difficult. And also it's quite overwhelming when you attack all of it in one go. And so breaking it down into bite-sized chunks, but someone can come away and go, oh, actually, I really got that. And we use analogies for everything, chocolate and, you know, things that people like landmarks and things that people can really sort of like, oh, yeah, no, I get that. Because when you break it down in that way, it's really obvious. And that's what, when I went through that journey of sort of learning about this stuff, I read every single book going, I did every course, I did every YouTube video out there. And I came back to the like crux of it is everyone's made it sound really difficult, but it's not. And that's what I try and approach, I think, with the content.
What made you go on that journey of learning and discovery in yourself? Was it just the point you're like, this debt's now racked up. I've got more month than I got money in a lot of instances. I've got to do something about it. Was there almost like a crisis moment, or was it just a gentle ebb of dissatisfaction? Like, fuck, I've just got to get this under control.
I kind of pinpointed it back to a moment, but I think it had been happening for a while. I think I went out in my 20s, really sort of trying to impress everybody around me. And I think a lot of young lads do that, right? They, they want to be cool. They want to be the one that, like, it's got the nice things that the girls all like, and that they're out all the time, and they, seem like a really cool guy. And I just wanted to be that guy. And so I'd use debt to fund me to look like that person. But actually underneath it, I was probably like quite unhappy.
Right.
From like you're sort of putting on a persona which isn't really necessarily you. You haven't really got the like source to back it up. You're kind of just putting yourself out there.
Source to back up. I love all these like London. I'm going to put like transcripts or like subtitles for international listeners. Source means the minerals. Oh, actually, that still doesn't work either.
Basically,
but why were you doing that though? What was it about that you were unhappy with in yourself that made you want to pretend to be someone that you weren't?
My granddad was co-founder of Ronnie. So he put me through like very good schooling until I was about 11. And then I came out of like full on, probably one of the poshest private schools going, into like a local standard secondary school. I turned up day one and I'm like, hello, grandfather, lovely to meet you, in my little bowler cap. And obviously every kid there was like, who is that guy?
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
Taking his lunch money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Yeah. So I went through that kind of like first 2-3 years of that experience for me was like, quite wild, real sort of shift in terms of like who I was, I suppose. And so you kind of like, I started sort of play acting to follow up to sort of fit in with those kids.
To protect yourself
in a lot of ways, yeah. And I think that kind of stemmed over. Like, I don't think that ever left me. So when I got like let loose at university, it was like that kid was sort of still in there, I think, still sort of trying to fit in. And I always thought that like being out, buying people drinks, buying everyone like rounds, looking cool was how I fitted in. And what I came to realize actually was it wasn't. And a lot of these, people are fake friends, they latch onto you, those types of things. And you're young, so you don't really get that. But as you sort of start seeing more of the world, you start to realize actually like nobody really cares about all this other stuff. They've got like, they're so bothered about themselves. And when that slowly starts to sink in, it takes people a long time. Like, I know people in their 40s still showing off. Eventually it will hit them, but like no one cares other than you. And so once I sort of started coming away from spending £600 on a jacket, putting it on a credit card and going out, and then someone would be like, oh, nice jacket. Like that was all I needed at the time. But then underneath that, I'm like, well, I've got £600 on a credit card now, I've got to pay that off. And so you start to balance these things. And then I had a moment like, I'm really lucky. All my mates are very entrepreneurial. There's a WhatsApp group of like 12 or 13 of us in there. And all of us are either like, managing directors, CEOs, or like heads of departments, all high flying lads and all doing really well. So there's a little bit of like mini competition in there, even from a really young age. And I think like having that as well sort of pushed me over that. And again, a friend of mine sort of turned around to me. He said to me, like, when do you want to retire? And I was like, 50 would be nice, sell a business, do something cool. And he was like, when do you want to pass away? And I was like, I'd love to get to 80. It'd be a nice little end. And he goes, well, that's 30 years. How much are you spending a year at the moment? And argument's sake, I said 30 grand. And he's like, well, 30 times 30 is £900,000. Have you got that? And I was like, what? Like, whoa, that was like really slapped me around the chops.
That's great. Simple, like goes back to the point though, it's simple maths. How much are you spending? How many years are you going to live? Have you got that money?
Yeah.
What a great equation that made you do.
Yeah, literally. And I was like, I hadn't told anybody that I was in debt as well. I was keeping it a secret. And I think that was like, not even my girlfriend knew at the time. Like my mum and dad definitely didn't know. And I just went like, oh my God, like I'm really badly in debt. Like I don't really know how to get out of it. I don't really know what to do. And he's like really on it with his personal finance. Like had been sort of investing from a young age and stuff like that, installed to it by his dad. So I always think that, if you haven't had that sort of help in hand, you kind of left your own devices to figure this stuff out. And so, I went on that sort of journey. When I came back, I got obsessed with learning about money, and I'm just like, okay, how do I get myself from A to B? I've always been entrepreneurial. I've always had little businesses and little side hustles on the go. And I just really lent into that to get myself out of the debt, and started learning like, okay, how do I invest? How do I grow money? How do I manage money? And like still to this day, I'm a massive overspender. You take me in a farm shop, mate, I'm coming out with 6 items and £100 bill, but happy as Larry.
Different from in your 20s.
Yeah.
Go for a big night out. Now it's like, look at that gorgonzola. Fresh olive bread. I'm having 2 loaves. I don't give a fuck.
Literally.
I'm flying.
Literally, like, £23 Manuka honey or whatever.
Come on,
happy. Like,
it's got all of these fitness benefits, though, love. Don't let me put it back.
Yeah, exactly. But I know that if you put me in those environments, I'm going to overspend. And I think it's just about I became more aware about myself and my triggers. So I have like certain things that I put in place to stop me from spending money. And I since like worked out that like most people have a problem with spending money because we live in a digital world with ads and, stuff being thrown at us left, right and centre, 2 for free here. Do you actually need that? And we are spending an enormous amount of money these days on just stuff that we don't necessarily need. And so asking yourself these types of questions and doing these little things can make a massive difference. And so, I started realizing when I was talking to these people about, I do this, and they were like, oh my God, I'm going to try that. And then they would try it and it would come back to me and go, that really worked. And I was like, okay, cool. So this was kind of happening, bubbling away under the surface for sort of 3-4 years. And it was only really sort of COVID time where I had the chance to sort of step back and go, what do I want to do here? That I sort of really started leaning into sort of the personal finance stuff.
Well, there's a couple of things, I've written down 11, so I don't forget it. So you mentioned there that you went to a really posh private school funded by Grandad because he owned Ronnie Scott's or part owned Ronnie Scott's till 11. Why did the money stop at 11? Did he get into financial difficulties? As in like the Ronnie Scott's brand got into difficulties? Because again, you look, Ronnie Scott's, for those who don't know, it's the most iconic jazz venue, one of the most iconic venues in the world, if not the most iconic venue in the world, definitely the most iconic jazz venue in London. And if you've never been there, you can't quite explain the magic. I've been there once, and it was, I was saying to you before we started, it was one of the best nights of my life. It was just a wall of sound. Every single person who is as good at their instrument as you've ever heard. The singers are unbelievable. The food was fantastic. Like I remember leaving there going, I think I might want to be a jazz singer.
Yeah.
Like you just, that vibe was so good. So on the outside looking in, the point of that being that you would look at a brand like that and go, that's iconic. It's been there forever. It will be there forever. But also it's in Soho. It's got business rates and costs and all these things. You don't necessarily, with certain brands, you don't think about the financial hardship behind. Effectively, they're a music venue in hospitality. 2 sectors that have been fucking hammered recently, but probably have been over the years as well. So was the 11-year-old posh kid out to comprehensive in North London, was that a circumstance of Grandad not being able to fund it anymore?
At the time, I had no idea why. I was told it's because he wanted to toughen you up a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that gives you a lot of subconscious baggage anyway, doesn't it, I guess?
Yeah, because my granddad's like a Cockney,
proper geezer.
Yeah, you would hang in the circles around. Back in Soho at the time, it was the Craze.
Of course it was, yeah.
And, they all knew each other. And so it was like, my granddad's from that world and plucked out of East London. And can you imagine me coming home, hello grandfather, off to choir this afternoon? It's probably like, what's going on? And so I get it. And so I think there's an element of that in there, but I've since come to realise that, Ronnie Scott's went bankrupt, potentially, well, close to bankruptcy. Probably more times than me and you have got fingers and toes to count.
Yeah.
It was a constant ride and wave. A lot of their early success depended on the because the dollar and pound rates, you could get artists over quite well because they were quite favourable amounts back in the time, and then the dollar would rise and you'd see my granddad like go through the roof because he couldn't get X, Y and Z artists over from the for 3 weeks in a hotel and all of the fees and stuff that would go in there. So I've since come to realise that it was constantly up and down, and he was probably managing the float and moving money around, doing things, and it was definitely would have been a part of it, I'm sure. It wasn't cheap where I went to school. I think that's kind of stemmed over into my life now. I think it's why I'm sort of so understanding of entrepreneurship, because I realised that all the stuff that he went through, like I'm going through now, cash flow issues, and you got to pay someone's wages and, hold that invoice for 2 weeks while you pay your team. And I'm in that now, and it's just I love it. I think it's just awesome. But I think someone that hasn't been, there is always a but, right? With this sort of stuff is that, you need to have the metal to be able to do all of this, because it's not easy. It takes its toll. But it's also just extremely enjoyable as well.
So that was sort of one side of it. So then the other part that I thought was really interesting. So you've got the sort of the kid from North London going to the posh school, and then the posh school kid having to go back into North London. And then was there a case that you lost yourself in that process, or did you just try and become a chameleon to fit in any environment? So when you're with granddad from the East End, you try and be a bit more East End. When you're with the chorister kids doing choir practice, you have to be one of them. And then by doing that all the time, you've got this equilibrium of, I guess, subconsciously saying to yourself, well, you're not enough, because you're having to act wherever you go. You're being a fake version of yourself.
Definitely. I'm still like that now.
Really?
100%. Like with you.
Do you catch yourself doing it? Do you know that you're doing it?
I do on camera, because if I've been on a call with someone who is a bit more well-spoken, I'll mirror them.
Right.
And then I'll come off call and I'll do a video and I'm listening to it back and I'm like, wow, you sound like you're from posh school.
Yeah.
And then I'll come off next video I'll make and I'll be back to talking like this. This is kind of normal me, because all of my mates are from North London and we speak like this. But I know that, if I was in a room with someone and I just catch myself doing it, and then I have to like flick myself back out of it. And so I'm like it now. I just think it's ingrained into me, and it's definitely from that period, I reckon. It's probably stuck it in my head. Yeah.
And what were you doing sort of work-wise then? Because you've sort of amassed you've 24 grand in the grand scheme of things. Sadly, that's not a huge amount of debt for somebody to be in these days. But I guess, you're a single person, and it is an amount that's hard to climb out of if the average salary these days, or at the time probably was about 20 odd grand. If you know that the next coming year, if you paid every single penny that you earn, you would be back to square zero. That's a hard place to be, which I think is why your tactics and strategies have become so popularized, because it is breaking it down and keeping it simple and not overcomplicating it. But what were you doing sort of work-wise when you were going through this period of time as well, before you became
So I was quite lucky that like my dad's being general manager of like music venues not Ronnie Scott's, although he was there for many years. My mum's run pubs, nightclubs, restaurants.
This is a proper family trade then. You're in the music and hospitality trade through and through.
Yeah. So I grew up in that world. Like I knew it inside out. So I had a leg up on, I suppose, other people coming into that, whereas, these types of things and operations at these venues are just like ingrained, and you pick these things up as a kid, right? So when I came out of university, I moved back to London. I went into hospitality, but I did a bit of, standard front of house stuff, but then I moved back into sort of promotion and marketing really quickly. And I became like a really young head of marketing at 24. And then so at 25 is when I sort of had my sort of aha debt moment. So I was earning really good money for my age. I was, on around about 50k back then, which is 60, 70k today, which is decent money.
Good money, yeah.
For that age, especially. But about a third of my wages was like going on interest payments just to like cover those interest payments back then. So it was, a lot of like change. So I had to like flip my life upside down. But yeah, I since after that went into like I've done multiple sort of heads of marketing, director roles. Moved into sales and operations, sort of
all in nightlife and hospitality stuff.
Yeah, restaurants. So I went and worked for a guy called Neil Benson, who was one of the founders of Flatiron Square in London Bridge.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So they had like multiple street food venues where they would go in and take sort of disused car parks, like massive. So it would be like a big sites that are waiting for planning permission. But these planning permissions would take 4 to sometimes 10 years just to even get like that high-rise skyscraper built or that student flats or whatever that was going on it. So we would go in and say to the landlord and be like, well, you've got a space here for 4 years that you can't touch. So give it to us. We'll pay you a decent amount of rent. And we'll flip it over and we'll turn it into like a mad street food like kind of complex with loads of like different bars outside stages and, you know, brilliant for things like the World Cup and stuff like that. So that was our business model. Sort of ran away from that. I worked for Neil for 4 or 5 years. He treated me from day one. He sort of took me as his like little protege.
Yeah.
And I just, walking around with him, I learned like so fast. In the end, he couldn't be bothered to go to these meetings. He'd just send me. And then I was negotiating with like massive contracts for like Heineken at 28. So I kind of had like a real taste of it all. And then 2 of my friends sort of went out on their own, and sort of all within this weird sort of incestuous world of hospitality. Everybody knows each other. And they took me over, and I sort of went off with them and started doing it with them for a bit. And then, I started up the Gains, ran it as a little side hustle for about 24 months. And then that started doing some serious numbers and revenue. And I was like, well, I've got a decision to make. And it was COVID time. Obviously going through hospitality in COVID was just savage. And I sort of realized then that because I had that time to sort of step back, I realized that I was running my entire life on just pure like adrenaline. So probably burning a candle at both ends, working in hospitality, those types of...
The industry's rife for it, isn't it?
Yeah, you stay out late.
Yeah, of course. You socialise when everyone else has gone home. You can't go out when everyone else is going out.
Yeah. And I'm still with my missus to this day. You know, it was kind of early stages back then, but, you know, it was having a tough like relationship issues and, you know, constantly out all the time, always back late, where have you been? You know, I don't want those type of guys. I didn't really want that life anymore.
Yeah.
I fell into it because it was so natural to me.
Of course,
but it never felt like it was my calling, if you know what I mean. I was just like, I just feel comfortable in this world. And it's
hard to get out of it, especially if you, like you say, you've almost got golden handcuffed at 24. If you're a head of marketing on 50 grand a year.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to go jump to a different industry just because it's ruining your sleep patterns. Do you know what I mean? So it makes complete sense, but you have got to sometimes in life take those big moments, I guess, to make those steps to step out of the industry.
Well, I was thankful for COVID. Like,
I'm not surprised.
Weirdly, it's a really tough time for a lot of people, but for me, it was like an absolute godsend. I needed that like hard stop to realise like what the hell I wanted to do.
Do you think, it's obviously hard to say because we don't know what the alternative would have been, had something not shut down the entire planet and forced you to go, Sammie, what the fuck are you going to do with your life? Do you think you would have carried on just in that industry just because you had always been in it?
Definitely.
Would you really?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Because like the start of Up the Gains was because everybody got obsessed with personal finance. And we had a WhatsApp group, and it was a few mates to start with, ended up growing to like 200 odd people. And people would ask me questions and I'd write the article. And like, that was because everybody was at home and obsessed about how to do this, how to do that. Like literally obsessed. You know, Damien Talks Money, who's sort of another one like me, but brilliant on YouTube. He puts all of it down to the fact that everybody was obsessed with like, how do I invest my money? Because they're getting these big fat, you know, surplus checks coming through. And everybody wanted to like learn and sort of sort their lives out because they got excess cash. And so like, if I hadn't had that time, I don't know if I'd be doing what I'm doing today, because I just would never have. I might have, you never know, but
seems unlikely, or much less likely.
Yeah, to sit at home, write blogs and build a website, like after working 14 hours on multiple sites around London.
Get home at 3 o'clock in the morning. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to blog about monetary policy. This is going to be banging. Not happening.
It's not happening.
So I'm really intrigued then at first, because you, like you said, you had almost an element of like financial shame because none of your pals knew about you being in the debt, and you're sort of a group of sort of pals that are all doing quite well. Everyone's flying in their industry and their particular job. What was the catalyst to you writing that first ever thing, or putting 2 people into a WhatsApp group to start talking about personal finance? How did that happen?
Yeah, it was, you remember like the GameStop sort of vibe? So do you remember that when it's the
GameStop?
Yeah, GameStop was like, it was that company. It was basically like, you remember Game in the UK?
Yeah.
So it's like the American version.
Oh, okay, right.
And then basically this thing happened, and this all the hedge funds were shorting it, and it became like this phenomenon.
I do remember this. Yes.
It's got documentaries have been made about it, series have been made about it now. But like back in the day, all of us were like obsessed with this like company that was like going off, and this is kind of what it was already bubbling away under the surface. I'd sort of set up the website and I was writing a few bits and bobs, but it was so bad. And then,
but what made you want to start doing that? What made you set up a website and write articles?
And I got
were you doing it like anonymously because you didn't want people to know, or
no, I was signing it onto me. I'd set it all up properly because you remember remember blogging was like a massive thing, right? And people were doing serious numbers off Google.
Yeah.
And as I said before, like I was obsessed with side hustles and always in that world and like learning about a lot of things. And SEO was sort of a big part of what I had to do for the businesses anyway. Right. So I knew the power of like web and building websites and driving traffic. And, that's all I did all day on a daily basis. So I was like, I could probably do this in an industry which I really enjoy. And obviously I was obsessed with personal finance back then. So I was like, let me set up a website and start writing some content and see if I can get some traffic.
Were you just writing it as like an opinion then, rather than be like, here's my situation, here's what I've done to get away from that?
It was nothing to do with me. It was more like, how do you, find
£100 or whatever?
Yeah, exactly. Fine. Right. It was nothing to do with me really. And it wasn't for a while because, back then, when you can get traffic to your sort of websites and blogs, you didn't really even need to sign your name. I did because I was quite happy with sort of putting myself out there. But a lot of people I know back in that industry, was just
anonymous. And
they've had 10 of these sites, just throwing them up and driving tons of traffic, earning money off AdSense and affiliates and stuff like that. And I absolutely loved it because it was kind of cool. I was like really into that sort of like building stuff and brands and because we have 12 venues. Every venue had about 12 or 15 different brands that we'd created because they're like mini in-house brands. So like, for example, one of our venues, like Amazing Grace, you'd have like, Take Me to Church, or just like the Friday night.
Is that the one at London Bridge?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing venue.
Oh, you've been?
Yeah. It's phenomenal.
That was one we opened.
Wow. Okay.
And that was like just as I was getting out, basically.
So you, like you say, you understand brands as in like a venue, and then brands as in like nights or sort of bringing communities together. So you kind of took that mentality and put it into your own stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly where it's come from.
Making a lot more sense now.
Yeah. So it was like, how do I find something cool? It was a bit quirky. It's a bit different. Everyone out there was either, it was Martin Lewis or money saving X, Y, and Z. And I was like, there's money saving mum and frugal this. And I was like, that's just boring.
Always the finance bros on the other side of it who are
exactly
all in there, like 18 going, hey, do the side hustle and rent a Lambo.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. There's that side of it too. Yeah. That's like, no way.
Yeah, that's not the bit of me.
Something was like a bit more like, it's not like laddie culture in any way, shape or form, but it felt touched like me. It sort of had that little bit of vibe to it. And because me and my mates were like doing these we were chucking 50 quid into this investment, 50 quid into that investment, just having a laugh and just like trying to pick stuff and trying to learn loads as well together. We would like, if one of our like picks did really well, we'd scream like on the old WhatsApp voice notes. We'd be like, up the gains, going phone to each other. And it just became this thing. And I was like, look, can I use this? Do you mind? And they were like, yeah, no, go ahead. Because I was like, it just works. And then I was like, well, actually, it's got loads of sort of health, fitness, tie over connotations. So the slogan became like helping Britain get financially fit, because there's that gains element of gains in the gym and gains from like financial money, and it just all sort of
it's clever. Sort of it works.
It was all an accident.
Yeah,
as a lot of these things are. But you build on it and you sort of take it. And I was like, actually, there's a brand in this, and so that's sort of where it came over from, I think. And all of the websites that were out there were quite like grey and boring and very like blog heavy. And I was like, no, I went like massive splash of colour, like put me on the front, like did all these mad branding. Like I made like custom images for every single article and did all of these things. And like, I think because I took all of that sort of design over and in, people looked at it and went, well, this is completely new.
Yeah.
And it wasn't new. It was like, with all brands, it's just little bits taken from each person. You're like, oh, he's really good at that. And it's the same with content now. He's really good at those types of captions. I've not seen those yet. Oh, that's really cool. Maybe I'll use those in one of our like podcast clips or something like that. So you take little bits from inspiration. Frank Sinatra says it. I know we're both Frank fans.
Yeah.
You steal from one person, it's stealing. It's steal from everyone, it's research.
Yeah.
And I'm a massive fan of that. So I think that's exactly sort of what I formulated over the years, is just bringing those elements in and having that experience with branding and coming up with things and driving traffic has really helped me with this and sort of getting it off the ground.
Now, let's just take a pause there, because I think Sammie has touched on something that's really, really valuable. The skill set that he had got in his day-to-day career, he could now utilize and move across to a sector that was ultimately going to end up being more valuable for him. Now, if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, you might be thinking, well, I'm already doing my life's work, James. I don't need to take that skill set and move it to a different sector because I love the thing that I'm doing. Brilliant. Good for you. Happy days. High five. But if you're not in that position, let's say, for example, you are not exactly where you want to be in life and you're thinking that you might want to make a move at some point within your career, bear in mind that the skill set that you're picking up right now, you could port that talent and take exactly the same attributes and skills that you've got, put it into a different sector or vertical, and that will become infinitely more valuable. What do I mean? So let's say, for example, you're a social media marketeer for a solicitor's firm in Scunthorpe. I don't know why I've picked that. I just have. Very random. Just popped into my head. But there's only so much, regardless of how brilliant you are, there's only so much value that you can bring that company with the skill set that you've got. However, let's say you are in the job that you currently got right now and you are desperate to start your own thing, but you don't quite know how to do it. You take that skill set that you've learned with organic content from the solicitor's firm in Scunthorpe and you put that into a finance company down in London, you're going to be infinitely more valuable. Same skill set, slightly different market, slightly different vertical, and infinitely more valuable. So never get frustrated, even if you're like Sammie was, coming to the end of your enjoyment or the end of the natural life cycle of the career that you're in, because the skills that you've already picked up, 9 times out of 10 you can move them, take them with you. There's almost like a director's loan. Your director's loaning your own skills to the new sector that you're going into, and you can become infinitely more valuable. Right, let's get back to it. So you get it off the ground, it gets a little bit of traction, and you put some people in a WhatsApp group. Tell us the evolution of what it became then, and this is pre you building out an app and all that stuff we're going to get to talk about in a little while.
Yeah.
But you went from literally 2 or 3 people in a WhatsApp group, chucking questions, you grow it to a couple of hundred. What's that time period and what happened in over that period of time?
It was
during lockdown when you had more time to do it, I guess.
Yeah, it took a while to get going because, you know, when you're sort of doing it with anything with traffic, it can take unless you've got sort of a big social following or lots of money to drive traffic to it, especially with like Google and SEO and stuff, it's, you know, a year's worth of work before you really even start sort of seeing any fruits to your labor. But the lucky thing was is that people, these asking me questions, and then I was sending it into the WhatsApp groups and then a bigger Facebook group that we set up as well. And it would get loads of traffic already just off that, which is a great signal for Google. So we sort of helped sort of speed that process up. But it took sort of about a year, and then it was getting sort of significant traffic enough to sort of justify, you know, carrying it on. And I said to myself, look, I'll give it 2 years of just throwing everything into this. And I was getting up at like 5 a.m, like doing 3 hours, getting on a train or tube into Central, cracking on with that for the whole day, finishing that. But on the way home, I had like laptop out, writing on I was obsessed. I don't know what came over me.
Oh, so you were doing the hospitality job and this at the same time?
Yeah, for like 2 years. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was nuts. It was a full on like, let's see where it goes and if it blows up. I think it was a lot of it came from like inspiring from seeing sort of Martin Lewis sell Money Saving Expert for like 90 something million quid. And I was like, wow, like 93 million pounds for a website, like that is mental to me. And I was like, well, I'd be happy with, you know, 900 grand. So like, surely, you know, if he can do it, I can do it. And obviously he had sort of naively, he had 15 odd years on me by that point. But I just thought, well, you know, there's an opportunity here. And equally as well, back then, it was kind of Martin and a few other sort of early stage creators, the likes of Pete Matthews and people like that had been doing it for a few years. But other than that, in America, there was hundreds of these guys. And there was a handful in the UK. And I was like, well, that's an opportunity in itself. It feels like a really sort of untapped market, like personal finance content creation. And so, yeah, it was the kind of website. Initially, I started a podcast about a year and a half into it. So I realized quickly that, you know, socials and podcasting was going to go one way, and slowly brought video into it. If you scroll back to the first ones, they are extremely embarrassing to look at, and I've left them there for a laugh at myself, really. But it's just kind of, you live and you learn and you duck and you dive and you keep going. But yeah, 24 months. And then it was earning enough at that point where it was earning the same as what I was taking home from the hospitality businesses.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, I've got a decision to make. And what I actually did was what I sort of speak to a lot of people about, is suggest with this stuff, if you ever end up in this position, is like, don't just turn the lights out in one of them and go full steam in that one, because you never know what you're walking into.
Yeah, true.
So I went down to 3 days, and then I went down to 2 days, and then eventually I sort of I moved out of it. So
that's a great idea.
It did work, because it just gave me that like pressure was off kind of vibe. And it also meant that the money that I earned over here from the hospitality business, I just tucked a load of it away for that rainy day. And then when I did finally go full time with Up the Gains, I had a year's worth of runway if things started going wrong. Then I could sort of lean into, and it gave me that pressure off, which was kind of nice. But yeah, no, I get it with a lot of these things with people like building businesses on the side. When you go and you start earning some money, you see that taste, you just want to go full throttle. Because once I started earning some money, and I was like, wow, like, I'm doing this with 20 hours a week.
Yeah. Imagine what I could do with 60.
Imagine what I could do with 60, exactly. So I was like, it's time. And, you know, I was like, I could be doing videos every day. I could be doing YouTube. I could be doing podcasting. And I was like, oh, this is just me. Like, I feel like this is me. And it wasn't only really until I think a good sort of year into making social media content that I wasn't really even sort of talking about my story. I hadn't really even said anything about me yet. I was very much the like, here's how to do X, Y, and Z, and it was doing okay. And then we started leaning heavily into the like, I used to be in 24 grand's worth of debt, but now I'm here. And then all of a sudden it just went whoosh.
What made you start testing that kind of content? Or what was it? Were you getting a lot of people going, well, how do you know this stuff? How have you worked this stuff out? And you just organically started to do it? I'm really intrigued, but especially I'd be intrigued about anybody making that decision, but especially someone with your background, like say, who's tried to chameleon himself into fitting in. So coming out and going, this is actually the real version of me, must have been like, it's scary anyway in content. It's scarier in a finance content. It's even more scary when you're going, I've got this finance content page or pages that you really like, and I know it for a lived experience of actually fucking it up myself. That must have been proper scary.
Yeah. It was, man. I don't know. I think like with all of these things, it's not just like a flick of the switch. You sort of slowly edge into it.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I said that one thing about myself, and that's what everybody started connecting to, or that's what all the comments were about. Tell us more about that. And then you kind of like, oh, damn, really open Pandora's box.
Yeah.
But then I think it was weirdly like sort of self-therapy for me to sort of slowly put yourself out there. Because you are worried about what people say, and still to this day, you know, we get 20, 30 a day of people just writing the most maddest stuff, but you're just so oblivious to it. But at the beginning, it's like, someone said this about me. Like,
people are vicious when it comes to financial stuff, isn't it? It's crazy.
Yeah. Because everyone's got their own opinion.
It's so emotive.
It's extremely emotive. Everyone's got their own opinion. Everyone's got their own strategy that works for them.
Yeah, cool.
And so, you know, you come out with your strategy and your idea, and someone over there is just going to completely disagree with you, and that's just comes part of the territory. And I think but when you're first starting out and you get like 20, 30 comments of people going mad, you know, it's a lot. Like, especially when you're talking about yourself as well, so you have to go through that. But that's what started doing, you know, you see one video, it's 5k views, and then you mention something like, you start with a hook like, oh, I used to do X, Y, and Z, and now I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and that gets 40,000 views. You go, well, I should probably do more of that. And so it becomes like a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, I suppose. You try it, it works a little bit, you lean into it more, it works even more, and then you're like, okay, well, you know, now I'm just going to talk about like the stuff that I'm doing and what I used to do. And it just, we literally went from, you know, 50k views, and then we're getting like 1 million views, 5 million views, and it was just like, okay, but this is a rocket ship, like, let's just keep going and see where it goes. And it's sort of carried on from there.
If you're loving this conversation, please do us a favor by clicking the subscribe button if you haven't yet done so. Click the follow button if you're listening on Apple or Spotify at the top right-hand corner of your podcast. Plus, if you're loving the learnings and lessons from this episode, every single week, as well as doing the video and the audio side of things, we also do a handwritten blog and we do a breakdown of the key learnings and lessons as a blueprint that you can implement into your business as well. If you'd like to get all of that, click the link that's in the show notes or the description and you can join our Building the Brand exclusive newsletter.
So you sort of almost like hedging your bets. You got the day job and the nighttime/morning job.
Yeah.
The full-time side hustle by the sounds of it.
It was, yeah.
What was it like on day one where you went, do you know, I'm going to step myself out, and then it's like, I am now, that first morning you sat at the laptop and like, fuck, I'm actually a full-time content creator now as my job. What did that feel like?
Mental. Do you know what it was? Is that
excitement, fear?
Yeah, really exciting. All of it. Yeah, all of it, actually. You're right. And, you know, there's times where you sort of sit down and you realize that, okay, right, and you kind of go, like, what am I going to do all day?
My first ever business, I remember exactly that. Yeah.
What am I going to do? Like, I should probably think of some, like, okay, I'm going to, you know, write all this stuff down. I'm going to start doing all this. It takes a little while, even though I was edging myself into it and slowly sort of ramping it up. That first couple of weeks is really weird because, you know, running multiple bars, you know, I had teams of hundreds of people.
Yeah.
And going from that to just me in a spare room is the most maddest experience.
Yeah.
And it really weirdly now, if you put me back into that environment, I think I'd go the other way, like full anxiety, because I'm so used to like being on my own in my little team now that I don't know if I could go back to that whole like hectic life. But it takes a while. It's like a massive transition period because you're kind of like so used to just picking up the phone, going X, Y, Z, oh yeah, can you do that? Yeah, we've got this fire over here, that fire over there. And that was my life. And then suddenly it's like, no, you're on your own, mate. Like everything's on you. You just got to sort of put this stuff out there and see what happens. It was obviously a big sort of transition for me and the missus as well, because she's used to me being out of the house and then I'm just there.
Yeah.
Like,
hello, still here. Oh,
yeah.
I know I used to complain about you being out all night, but could you do a little bit of halfway?
She's like that now. She's literally like
go
that
out,
now.
see your mates, play some paddle.
Literally.
Find a hobby, go play golf because it gets you out for 4 hours.
Are you her? It's literally my life. Yeah, I said to her as I was going into London today for a podcast with you, she's like, great. She's like, you should pop into town after, do some bits.
Have a long lunch, go see your old mates.
Yes, it's literally. Because I will just sit there and just do it. And I think when you find something that you're just like, you know this, you've run businesses, you just get obsessed. I liken it to playing Xbox all day at 14, but I'm the main character in the show.
That's a great way to look at it.
And I'm doing like Grand Theft Auto style game, running around doing things. Obviously not.
Yeah, I was about
not as nefarious.
Personal finance. That's how you make so much money, smacking people on the head, nicking the money.
You know what I mean, though?
Yeah,
like, it's that first person game. You can go anywhere. You can do anything you want. But it's you. And so I like it. I sit there and I think I'm just playing Xbox all day. That's what it feels like building those businesses. And so I just take that with me. And when my missus explains to me, she's like, you've been working, you've been in there since 6 a.m. It's now 9 p.m. Like, do you want to come out? I'm like, is it?
Didn't even know.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. And when I think you get into that, it's unlock something in you. You're just like, this is awesome. And I just want to do it all the time. There is, I've come to sort of see, going through periods of sort of just like completely burning out, that there is another side to it. And I think you need to have those abilities to switch off and other things going on.
Yeah.
Because I know from looking at some of my mates, their entire identity is their life, their business, their work. And if you strip that away from them, like, who are they? And so, I've been putting these things into place over the sort of years. Now I'm obsessed with my gardening. I'm absolutely obsessed with sort of like, health, fitness, looking after myself a bit and cooking and doing all of these things, which is awesome because it puts like real life back into it.
Yeah.
Gives me a reason to shut off. And weirdly, what I've found is as well, not the less I work, but going from a 16-hour day to an 8-hour day doesn't affect anything other than the fact that I probably do way better work in that 8 hours than I would in that 16 hours. And so, why wouldn't I do the 8 hours? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a rule. I think it's called Parkinson's law.
Okay.
And Parkinson's law stipulates that a task will take the time that is allocated towards it.
Right, exactly.
So whether you say, I've got 8 hours to do this thing or 16 hours to do this thing, it will take the allotted time that you give it. And like you say, you'll probably do exactly the same amount of work within that 18 or 16 hours because your mind is just going to do that work.
Yeah.
It's hard though, isn't it? Especially if you've been raised literally from a kid that you've seen people work really hard and you've got to graft and you've got to work the 16 hours, you're doing shifts, and in your world especially, like, you're doing unsociable hours and split shifts, and it's high pressure and lots of people to then go, actually you can make just as much, you can be a better entrepreneur using half of your time.
Yeah.
That's super uncomfortable.
It is weird.
Which people think is the promised land, the Mecca that they're all going towards, but actually getting there, it's probably really, really difficult.
I think at the beginning you kind of have to, don't take this as, if you are starting out, don't take this as do half the work, because at the beginning you have to brute force it.
Sure.
Once it's going and it's running and it's doing its thing and it's bringing in some cash, like, your time is better spent being a little bit more strategic about where you're moving to than just blinkers on, like, let's keep hammering it. And look, there is weeks. I've just gone through 3 months of 16-hour days because we're doing the app and we've launched that and it required me to be on it. And then there's times now where I'm like, okay, this is moving in the right direction, where I just step back a little bit, put some, pass some stuff on to the team members, take a little bit of responsibility off your plate, and share that around with team members or co-founders or whatever that might all be. And suddenly you got your life back in a little bit of sort of rhythm again. But there's always periods where you're going to go for it. Launches, stuff coming out. You've just started your own business. You're going through a bit of financial hardship in your business. You need to lock in for a bit. Then great, crack on and go for it. But yeah, I think you need to have that balance, because having done this for 5 years, and you've done this for sort of many, many years, and obviously running the bars and nightclubs before that, there are periods where your body just gives up on you. And I think as you get older, it happens more often. So I see it coming now.
Yeah.
I see it with I'm like, okay, I can see this happening. I need to just take a few days out.
I think that level of self-awareness and self-actualization, you only get that with age. You can't teach it in someone who's necessarily younger, because you have to go through the reps and sets to go, oh, actually, I could feel I'm getting really ratty with everyone. That means I'm tired. Why am I tired? Because I'm never switching off. And also, what's really interesting, how many times you hear it when entrepreneurs have got, I went, took a week's holiday, sat on the beach, I come up with the maddest idea.
Yeah.
Now we're going to implement it.
Yeah.
You can't outwork creativity in some instances, but it is so uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's mad.
Now let's just take a little pause there, because Sammie has once again touched on something that I think is seriously valuable, but is often overlooked. He's stepped himself out of his current situation in order to build the new thing that he wanted to craft. Now, what he didn't do, which makes a bunch of sense for someone who understands personal finance at a massive level, he didn't just stop doing his job that was paying him a very good salary and go, fuck that, I don't want to do it anymore. I want to do this new thing over here, and just finish the day job and put himself under the pressure to build something from scratch. He started to do this on the side. Effectively, it started like a hobby, and how many people out there create something absolutely brilliant as a business or an entrepreneurial organization that actually just started by scratching their own itch, and so that they really enjoy doing. But he's doing that hobby, then he realizes he can help people, and then he starts to very slowly to monetize the thing that he's doing. But he's still doing the day job. He's still doing the early morning starts. He's still getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. He's writing the blogs. Then he's going into work, doing 14 hours, writing stuff on the train on the way home. That part of the journey isn't always sexy. It isn't always cool. It can lead to burnout. Oh my God, don't people get tired doing that kind of thing? But ultimately, do you know what? I think that's the better and safer way, that if you have the option to do so, that you move from the thing that you're doing to the place that you want to be. Now look, it doesn't always happen that way, and it's not always possible. But to step yourself out of your current role while you're making side money in a different space, and eventually gets to the point where there's parity, where you're making as much in the day job as you are on the side hustle, then you can make that move. Now, some situations require you to go all in, and you need that positive pressure, and you need the sleepless nights. But trust me, and take it from me, that is a horrible place to be. I had it back in the day. I had a career in the music industry. Then all of a sudden, the company I was working for couldn't pay my wages. We literally got to the end of the month, and the person who I was working with said, how would you feel about me paying you in installments? And I was like, I think I'd feel pretty shit about that. So I left that company 3 days later. They told me that on a Friday. And on the Wednesday, I started my new company. And it was scary as fuck because I had no plan B. I had no other option. So I had to make it work. And yes, you look at it and go, well, that's why it worked, because you had to make it work. But equally, did I need the pressure? Did I need the stress? Did I need the sleepless nights? Did I make the best decisions because I was under such a place of pressure? Probably not. So if you can, and again, to reiterate, it's not always possible, but if you can, step yourself out of the situation that you're currently in order to take steps towards the place where you ultimately want to go. Now, let's get back to it. You mentioned the app.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk about the app. So obviously you guys are doing 20 to 30 pieces of content a day. You've got hundreds of thousands of followers. You get millions of views every single month. You've become, very well respected and very well liked in the personal finance space.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
You could have really had a very nice, comfortable life just being a content creator. AdSense, YouTube revenue, podcast sponsorships, brand deals. Why the hell are you putting yourself under the duress of creating a FCA regulated finance app that is in such an emotive space, has money? Like what is Gains app and why the hell are you doing it? In essence,
You're making me regret my decision now, mate.
I can see why you've done it because I've looked at what you're doing. I'm like, this makes a whole bunch of sense, but you've chosen the harder path. Intentionally, I would say.
I think I always have. I get bored, man.
It's just a trait.
I just get bored.
Yeah.
Quick. Like
8-hour days writing in Ramsgate, doing a bit of gardening. Nah,
it's not for me.
Throw a spanner in that, works.
Yeah. Risk the bag. I've always just said, like, I would rather take 100% risk on than 10% and just sit there.
Yeah.
I get bored. I think if I'm not scared, a little bit scared, then I think I'm not doing something right here. So I think
psychotherapist needs to talk to you about that. By
yeah, probably.
There's some trauma we need to deal with here.
I think all entrepreneurs are a bit. We all are in some capacity. But I feel like if that's not like there, I don't feel like I'm pushing myself as well. And I'm sure there'll come a time where I'm just like, I don't want this anymore, and I don't want that. But like, I think we built the brand. It was doing like serious numbers. A lot of people were sort of turning around to us and going, there are apps out there that aren't fulfilling our needs, that aren't like doing what we need to do, or we're using this app over here for this thing, or this app over here for this thing, and this app over here for that. And then I was like, well, and it just kept coming up. And I think if you're mad not to listen to your customers if the same problem keeps coming up all of the time. And so it was like, okay, well, like there's some big players in this space with massive budgets, but they don't seem to be ticking the boxes for my audience. And I think that was enough for me to go, okay, well, let's look into it. So we started looking into it April last year, and we quickly saw that, okay, this is quite an interesting space, not just from like a sort of a monetary perspective, but because everything we do is designed to sort of help someone go from A to B. And I was like, this allows us to help even more people, but it's visible. So we can actually like see how much we're helping someone from an individual user perspective. Because you put content out, you have absolutely no idea who's seeing it.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's helped, whether or not they've used it, whether they've done anything. Some people tell you they do, but whether they do the next month, who knows? So you don't really know other than people sort of reporting back to you that X, Y, and Z's worked. So I was like, we need something that we can see whether or not it's really changing someone's life, whether or not it's sort of moving into the next direction. And then equally as well, sort of a third string to that was when we started looking into it. This was about the time when sort of Claude Code had sort of slowly started to come out. And it meant that what would have taken a team of 12 could probably done with a team of 5 and 6. So what we were looking at going, well, how on earth are we going to get 200 grand's worth of sort of wage bill covered, and how we're going to have to raise millions, and do we really want to go down that road? To the like, okay, we could probably raise like £1 million and be absolutely fine. So that sort of slowly started to sort of eep away. And then in about June, we just went, yeah, all right, then let's give it a go. Which is kind of mad, really. And, we could, as I say, we could have just sat there and, the business was doing really well. We could have just sat there doing really well and had a nice life and just cracked on. But also because of AI as well, I thought that the risk to the content business had grown significantly too. And so I was like, if someone steps in and makes better content than me through an AI and they live in Scunthorpe with zero knowledge of personal finance, they probably could in a few years' time. And I was like, that's not necessarily that's such a big risk to me and this business that eventually I don't know whether or not that content business is going to exist. And so I was like, well, we need a physical product that we can hang the IP and the brand on and help a load more people at the same time, and then potentially have an actual exit from this. Because from a content standpoint, is my face or my name on it, it's not really sellable.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that if you're getting loads of website traffic and then you can sort of take that across. But then even then, Martin Lewis is still the CEO, or not the CEO, he's still the face of
Chairman and the face and the brand.
Yeah. Without him, does that business do those numbers?
Yeah.
No way. And so he's, and the Money Supermarket who bought it recognised that. And so I'm like, would that happen again? I don't know. I don't think that sale would have happened again. Potentially would have, but it was a bigger risk. So I was like, with Gains app as well, I can remove myself. I'm obviously a massive driver of that for now, but in the future, it doesn't actually need me there to drive
to be the face of that, do you?
Don't have to be. And I quite like that, because I think after sort of putting myself out there in the internet for so long and your life is out there and people know more about my life than and they tell it back to me. I'm like, oh yeah, forgot about that. That happened.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, how's your dog? And I'm like, whoa, like that freaks me out a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I would say I'm like an extroverted introvert.
Yeah. Okay. I
so
can see that. Yeah.
Turn it on, but then I also really like being on my own as well.
Yeah.
And I think it slowly starts to weigh on you. Like, how long do I need to carry on putting myself out there my whole life? And as you said, like, people want to know what I'm doing with my personal finances. It's very like I've sort of opened my life up to the internet.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily sure I want to be that open forever. So this is allowing me to sort of slowly move out of it. It's going to take a little while, but yeah, I think that's the idea, really.
So what does Gains app do?
I should probably tell you what it does.
Yeah.
It just went on some mad rant.
So now you told us that you're trying to hide in public.
Yeah.
And you don't want people asking you about your dog.
Yeah.
Any other things that Gains app's going to do?
Yeah. It does a couple of things. Yeah, it's just an app on the App Store. Just download it. So no, basically what we spotted was that a lot of people had multiple bank accounts and credit cards, and the average Brit has 2.3. Our audience, when we surveyed them, was 3.2, sorry. So they were a whole one above. Probably my fault for telling them to do like multiple things, but either way, you definitely got a credit card with one provider. You definitely got a bank with one provider. Potentially, you even got like a Monzo or a Revolut open somewhere else.
Might have a joint bank account with your
and a joint account and a business account if you're a businessman. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And it's quite difficult to sort of actually understand what the hell's going on with your money. The largest problem in the UK now, because of Apple Pay and online shopping and these other things, is that money's digital. So it's moving fast and it's moving around different places and different pots. And it's quite difficult to just sort of have one central place where I can see what the hell's going on with my money. And so that was the sort of cusp of it. And then budgeting is quite a dated experience for a lot of people. They don't really get on with it. They get sort of a big wave of motivation, and then they go next month, they go, oh, I can't be asked to do that. Like downloading my bank transactions, sitting there with a spreadsheet and a thing. It's open to mistakes, all of those sort of things. And then the third thing is a lot of people have like questions when they're going through that period. So for example, you've got how much did I spend on takeaways last month? You're going through line by line. I was like, well, AI can handle that like that. So like, I want to know how much have I spent at Uber last month. oh, okay, now I've got to go line for line, or an AI can just tell you immediately. So I was like, oh, interestingly, like, how can we get people the answers that they want around their money, like, really, really quickly? So AI became a big part of that conversation. And then also cashback on your spending. So you can get between sort of 3 and 20% back on every single major retailer. It's just not necessarily like a widely accepted thing or used thing.
Yeah.
So what we found was, when we surveyed our audience again, it was like 91% of them had never used cashback before. And when we added up the numbers, this is hundreds of pounds for people in a time where cost of living's gone through the roof.
Yeah. They're
cutting back and moved from Tesco to Aldi. You know, they've cut down from 2 holidays to 1 holiday, or, you know, a staycation instead of a broad holiday. And people don't want to do those things. But then if I gave you 600-700 quid back on the money that you're already spending, what would you do with that? Well, a lot of people were like, oh, I'd cover Christmas, I'd cover X, Y, and Z. And I was like, wow, that's a massive thing. Like, how do we educate more people around that? Because this is available now. And so we integrated that. And then, and we've also integrated something called bill switching as well, which is when you know, your car insurance renewal comes up, a lot of them just double in cost, or they just go ridiculous in price. And, you know, having somewhere which monitors these things for you and says, oh, look, your X, Y, and Z is up for renewal next month. Like, you probably need to go and go compare the market or whatever, those types of things. So I think the average household can save like £590 a year by switching bill providers when the end of their contracts come up.
It's worth having, isn't it, for people?
So this is over £1,000 now for every
yeah.
single person out there.
It's a lot of dough.
It's a lot of dough, and in today's day and age, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, so I think what could a family afford to do with £1,000? Quite a lot. You know, it's food shopping for an entire month, or it's a holiday away, or it's kids after school clubs covered. So it's quite a lot. And so I was like, okay, this is a big thing. So we was like, well, let's bring it all into one. So that's what we've built. And so that's what Gains app is. It's kind of a money management app which sort of monitors all what's going on a day-to-day basis. You can use it to get cash back on your shopping or anything you buy from any sort of major retailer in the UK. It monitors all your upcoming payments, your bills. You can switch your bills if you want to use us, or we prompt you to use others if you want. So it's kind of like that sort of layer on top of your day-to-day life. And it's designed to sort of based on sort of a little bit on kind of Whoop in a way.
Right, yeah, because I heard you talk about this on another podcast, because like I say, you talk about personal wellness or personal fitness, and those things are like, everyone's up for it. Everyone's, you know, taking nootropics and supplements and testing their sleep score. But if you've said to them, well, what about your personal finances? That becomes a lot less sexy and a lot more emotive. Even as I say it, I can feel myself like, ugh.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be, because it's all part of your life, isn't it? So you're almost like not gamifying it, but you're making it easily statistical, so they can see the bits that matter to them in a way that is almost palpable to a general consumer, not a FD who knows how to read a P&L.
Exactly. It's the FD P&L for the everyday person that they can actually understand. And so it's like, oh, I've overspent on shopping this month, but I'm underspent on transport this month. If I match the two together, oh, okay, cool, I'm all right. Great, that's all I wanted to know. Am I all right?
So does it pull the feeds for, let's say I've got a Barclays and a NatWest and a Metro and a Monzo and a Revolut. It pulls all my feeds into one place.
Yeah.
And then it will work all that stuff out across all of those accounts.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah. So it will show you, like, it will break it all down by category. You can customize all your categories. You could, have kids after school clubs. You could put a holiday in Greece or whatever that might all be. And it will know that all of those transactions are related to that category for you. And you can see it all sort of super visual. It's all nicely laid out with like nice donuts and charts and stuff. So you can see what's going on, see what's coming in, what's going out, what you got upcoming, whether that's going to affect what you got left. And so it just sort of shows it all to you in a way you can go, all right, sweet, I'm all right. Oh, I went out this weekend and damn, I probably need to be a bit more careful for the upcoming months. But, oh, look, it's told me I've got room over here. So I'm actually all right as long as I don't
switch my car insurance, I save 300 quid.
Or you can pull a trigger and pull some money in. Yeah. So that's the idea. Just designed to be that sort of helpful layer, because it's like money stress. I think it's 43% of Brits lose sleep over money. 2 in 3 don't feel confident managing money, and like so much money gets wasted by like people just not knowing these things are out there. These brands are sort of just taking advantage of them. The fact that like people don't move banks, people don't move providers, and actually like you shouldn't be loyal to any of these providers unless they're sort of giving you the best possible price. And you know, I think people get afraid of that these things are really difficult. So we're just trying to make it super, super easy for them. So that's the kind of name of the game. We've still got a long way to go. And then, then there's the sort of AI layer on top of it. So anywhere you are on the app, we've got a little sort of G which pops up and you can ask it your own question, or there's pre-prompted questions. So you can say, I've seemed to have gone up in transport this month. Do you know why? And it'll go, yeah, you spent 144 quid on your trip from, it looks like you were in, Leeds last week. You spent 144 quid on a train ticket and petrol or whatever that would. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It will sort of highlight it for
smart.
you. It'll get better over time as well. Like the more you use it, the more it learns about you and your patterns and things like that. So that's the name of the game, really. We've got a long way to go. But yes, it's 10,000 users now as of sort of last week.
Yeah, you were saying that's fantastic. And when did you launch it? So
May 12th.
May 12th. So we're in now July. So you got June, July. So you've done it in 2 months.
2.5 months, yeah.
10,000 users. Wow.
Yeah, it's doing all right.
What I thought would be really interesting for people, because our audience is 80+% entrepreneurs and 80% in the UK. So it's a very like British business focused audience.
I see, you know how mad we all are.
So yeah, when you go to everyone's batshit crazy, I'm like, yeah, I know. They all listen to this show, which I'm very grateful for. They don't go anywhere else. But in that regard, so you built a waitlist, which I thought was really interesting. So you built a waitlist. So you've got collectively across your channels about 500,000 followers of the generalized free content.
Yeah. You
talk about building this app and what it's going to do, and you collected about 13,000 people, you were saying, onto this mailing list.
Yeah.
So from 500,000 that's 13,000 who have proactively opted in. That's a good opt-in rate. And then you were telling me, I don't know if you can say it on camera, so I'll ask you the question. How many of those converted to being your sort of early adopters on this app from that wait list?
Yeah, so it's about 7,500 have come over from the wait list.
So over 50% of those people then, which is really good, especially for an app that's would have so many barriers to getting people to sign up, I would say.
Yeah. I don't know why it's so high. I calculated that 35%, if we were lucky, would come over.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of the factors is that kind of we've built up a lot of trust and goodwill with the sort of core subset of people.
Yeah.
I think if we do anything, if we were to do a big workshop or these types of things, we would probably get a few thousand people just like automatically like opt in and sign up if it was free. So I think we're quite lucky there. I think that's sort of 3 years of work to get to that point. But it is a lot higher than we expected. And I was saying to you before, we've hit them hard. We've hit them really hard. So a lot of people do launches, especially with waitlists, and then the launch happens and then they go, 60-70% of people haven't come over. We were like, well, hello, every few days, different things, different tactics. We would try like pushing the buttons or talking about a new feature or talking about these different things. And, eventually this has happened over the course of 2.5 months. I think roughly by the end of the first month, it was around about 30-odd%. So about another 20% have come over since then. And that's just from like a re-engagement strategy. And also because a lot of these people will have followed us from social media, suddenly that's all we're talking about on social media. Naturally, they're coming over from that too. So there is a bit of crossover.
20% extra in the next month, though, I think that's a really important lesson for people to take, because I think, like say, you can go, I've got this huge audience, and then it becomes 13,000, and then it becomes 7,000. You go, okay, well, that's cool. But actually, do you know what? There's another whole percentage of people you just have to nudge and remind. A message is only as good as the earbuds or the eyeballs that it hits at the right time. Sometimes the message has to be right for it to actually land and convert at the 100%. Right time.
We see the same thing with our onboarding as well for the app. So like a lot of people, because we make them connect to bank, and that's a massive barrier.
Yeah, of course.
We get straight away, we know that's 30% off our onboarding. No matter how much we optimize it, if we get to 70%, I'll be so happy. It's not going to happen. We're about just under 60%, and we just got to accept that. There's loads of things we can nudge it up by 1% here or there as we grow and test these things. But one of the biggest things, the levers that we actually pull, is the post onboarding sequence. If you don't connect the bank, so we go through a whole educational thing, then we go through a whole you signed up to this for a reason, almost not guilt, but in a way, just sort of making them feel something about the reason why they signed up for it. It's sort of
compelling them almost.
Yeah. Emotionally sort of hitting the right nerves without being a bit of a dick about it. So you get
solid strategy. What we're going to do here, we're going to compel them to hit the emotional thing, but we can't be dicks.
You said you were fat.
Get to the gym.
I see it all the time.
Because it does work.
It works.
It does work.
But with us,
we don't want to do it.
We don't want to damage the whole other brand that we've got as well.
Sure.
So we've got to be careful there. So we're bringing it over. But like you said, it's a multiple sequence of emails. There's nudges, there's reminders, there's us hitting them back. There's even dropping a DMs. Some of our first things was let's DM the people that we know, haven't come over yet. Why haven't they come over? Let's DM them. They came over. And so it's just these little tactics and things that we do.
And you've done webinars?
No.
I reckon webinars would be good.
Yeah.
Like a walkthrough. Because the thing is, for you've got so much brand affinity because you've been doing it for free for so long for the betterment of other people. And vicariously, people go, well, he's a good dude. I've bought into him and therefore I'll buy into whatever he does. So I think if you did a walkthrough webinar, which was almost they're showing intent that they want to be shown it at least. If you showed it in its most simplistic form, I think that would convert really well for you guys.
Interesting. That's a good shout.
There's some advice you didn't ask for or didn't want, but you can have that for free.
No, we've done them in the past when we've done little courses and stuff a couple of years ago, and they were amazing conversion rate.
Yeah. Because like you say, I remember my bank, when my accountant was like, right, we only work with Xero and you have to connect your bank to Xero, even though it's my accountant verbally assaulting me on email, going, just connect it. I can't do anything until you do. It's the only bit you have to do. I was still like, do I have to? Because I'm not techie. Is it safe? Do I have to get a VPN first? So all that stuff. So like I say, your conversion rate is always going to suffer because of that fear.
Yeah.
But even again, I think hats off to you. 60% of people doing it. I think it's amazing considering that you're not having to be there to twist their arm manually. I think that's really good. Shows the good? Brand. I would say it's very good.
Oh, cool.
Shows the brand that you've built.
This is the thing with this stuff. People say
I have
no idea.
I
have no idea. And then I'm like, say it to Claude, and Claude's like, oh no, you're doing really well now. I'm like, really? It doesn't feel like it.
Claude was just telling me what I want to hear.
I know.
ChatGPT's going, you're doing amazing. Sammie, insert name here.
Yeah.
Keep going.
We just say to it, because one of the big things is that the app needed to be free, but the app needs to be free to a certain degree, and then it has to make some money. So we have a premium plan as well as a free plan. But messing around with the numbers on that, I think asking it benchmark. So we've got a 6.3% pays to free ratio. Okay. But apparently that's bang on industry benchmark, which is great for us because it means that okay, we're doing something right now, and we've barely optimized any of it. So what happens if we get that to 7.5%? Well, revenue is going to increase. So we've got, what's good now is that we're looking at it and we're we've got so much room to improve, and our numbers are holding up in the right places.
Yeah.
And that's what's really encouraging for us. Obviously that could all massively change. And a lot of that is skewed by the fact that these are super warm leads as such. If you wanted to look at it like that. And we're well aware of that, but even so, if I'd be worried if it was 1.5%.
Yeah.
And so it's not. And so I think that's really given us a really good position now to kick on. And we only raised a really small amount because we said, let us prove what we said we were going to prove. We just start the conversations now, and then we'll prove it, we'll come back to market, and then we can kind of not command the conversations, but we know
it's a position of strength, isn't it? Rather than we're thinking we're going to do this, you can go back and go, we have done this.
Yeah. And like, I know apps that with like half the users, barely any revenue, that have raised millions of quid in a similar space to us. And I can't get my head around it. I'm like, how did you raise all that money off that? And that I know that their outgoings even to now, because thankfully, obviously, because we've got this big audience, because of sort of AI coding and the way that sort of meant that our tech team could be 10th of the size, it's meant that we've got a really small, lean team with a massive distribution model behind it, which has given us the ability to be able to go, okay, we don't actually need 5 million quid. We probably need £1 million and we'd be absolutely fine. And also our path to profitability, usually for a fintech, and we were talking about this, a lot of tech products are years and years without even ever making a pound and penny and just burning through cash. We're probably like 6 to 9 months till we hit profit. And that gives us a really sort of good benchmark to really kick it on. What happens then if we sort of pour fuel on the fire and inject a load into paid and marketing? So
now let's take a pause right there, because Sammie has touched on something that's really, really important. I'm going to make sure that we deep dive into this enough so that we have a clear understanding, not just for you, dear watcher and listener, but also for me, because sometimes when you say these things out loud, you're kind of subconsciously coaching it to yourself, and sometimes I still need to hear this stuff. There's a massive difference between having a fan or a follower and having a customer or a client. And what Sammie has done very, very well within the process of building Gains app is he's done a great job of converting followers and fans into customers and clients. Now, that's not always easy. Even if you polled your community, if you polled the fan base that you've got and said, hey, I'm going to launch this thing, would you buy into it? Or who would be interested in it? I bet 9 out of 10 people will raise their hands. But it's very, very different when you have to get somebody to take a quid out of their pocket. But Sammie's done some very, very basic but very, very powerful things here, which I wanted to touch on. Number one, he's used that social media following for mass awareness, and he has given value after value after value after value. So he has got already the law of reciprocity. If people give you something, you want to give them something back in return. So the likelihood is the audience that he's built up will now want to support him in some sort of way because they've been supported by him. There's a brilliant story I remember that Tim Ferriss told where he created a product which was helping kids to get into the right new university. He then formatted that into a business, and then he basically messaged people out about it. They'd already had the service, but they still paid him because of how much they appreciated what he'd already done for them. They'd already had the service. They didn't need to pay, but they decided that they wanted to pay. That is the law of reciprocity, and that is what brand awareness can do if you are absolutely categorically giving nothing but value. Second thing, he built a mailing list, and this is not the first time we've heard about mailing lists on Building the Brand. You might remember there was a brilliant episode with Connor from Football Her, and that was one of the things that he did. He had amassed this audience on TikTok, but realized that ultimately, if you build something on a social media platform, you're always ultimately playing in somebody else's sandbox, and they can ultimately take that away from you. So he built up a mailing list, which was lucky that he did in the case of Football Her, because his TikTok account got shut down the week of launch. Same thing with Sammie. He's taken that law of reciprocity, those people that are fans and followers, and put them into an environment that he can control in that mailing list environment. Number three, he's hit that mailing list hard, and he hasn't been afraid to do so. I've worked with loads of people over the years, coaching and consulting on branding and social media and all that kind of good stuff. And when I find out from people, or where I quiz people on, like, well, how often are you utilising your mailing list? Oh, we send them, an email once a month. That's not enough. People are going to forget you. How many notifications do we get? There's something like between 5,000 and 8,000 marketing messages that we see every single day because of social media. They might not all be conscious advertising messages, but ultimately they are. So you've got to be willing to hit people with your message again and again and again. Now, as long as the content is in line with what they signed up for, your unsubscribe rate shouldn't outweigh the benefit you get from hitting people with the same message again and again and again. And don't forget, yes, when you're in a business or an organization, the first time you put a post out or you launch something or you've got a new course or you've got a new website, you've got a new podcast, you've got some new content, you think it is the be all and end all because it's the thing that you've been focusing your time on. But for other people, again, I mentioned it a minute ago, it's one of 8,000 messages that they've seen that day. So building the mailing list is super powerful, and hitting it hard is very advisable. And the final thing that I think he's done very well, amongst doing lots of stuff very well, frankly, is the follow-up sequences. It can be all too easy to think with a marketeer's mindset and go, right, okay, well, I've got that lead. They're now onto my mailing list. I've then converted them onto the app. Brilliant. But ultimately, as Sammie's mentioned already, that conversion into the app is a hard thing to make people do. So building out a sequence, knowing full well that they are going to drop out at a certain point, is going to help that massively. Now, sequences is something that I find people are very, very scared of quite often because it sounds very technical. You've got triggers, you've got automations, you've got lists, you've got notifications. Now, in the back end of most systems, to be brutally honest, whether it's Go High Level, MailChimp, Active Campaign, even if you're utilizing it for your website, things like Wix, automations and campaigns and follow-up sequences are normally quite easy to build out. The thing that I think you should do when you're doing a follow-up sequence is make it simple, make the triggers obvious, and make it run by default. Don't be too worried about hitting people with a message too often, because ultimately, as we touched on a minute ago, the benefit of that follow-up sequence and hitting them multiple times with the same message should, in theory, outweigh the risk that they're going to unsubscribe and leave your mailing list. And ultimately, if they unsubscribe and leave your mailing list, they were never going to be your customer or client in the first place. They were just going to be a consumer of your content. You need, in this instance, customers and clients, not just fans and followers. Now, let's get back to it for the last little bit with Sammie.
What's been your own sort of mental shift you've had to make going from content creator to fintech founder, having never been a fintech founder before? And because you've just delivered value for 3 or 4 years, and now it almost feels like you're still giving value, because it's like, here's a free app that if you want it to be even more valuable for you, then you could pay us a few quid a month because of the way that model works. But what's been the shift you've had to go through in your own mentality or mindset?
Trust. Trust in other people, I think, is like paramount number one, because I can't write a line of code. I have to have, like, we've had to spend a bit more money on like a CTO that can communicate, because most of the sort of techie entrepreneurial types aren't usually the best communicators, and it's just like a different side of the brain. That's the way that they think. But my guy Daniel, shout out Daniel, who will probably listen to this, he's a big fan of yours, is a like he's very good at product and he's extremely good at code at the same time. It's a really sort of odd mix with him.
And can communicate.
Like,
careful, don't give him too many shout outs. Everyone will come and get him.
I know, don't touch him. He's mine.
Don't touch Daniel.
Yeah.
Great soundbite.
Yeah, he's mine. No, he's just like a great find. And because I have to lean on him, because I'm like, look, you're talking to, I have no idea what you're saying.
You don't know what you don't know.
I literally don't know what you don't know. So I think it's been a massive learning experience for me. Like, I now know all of these like weird little tech terms like CAC and, you know, all of these things. I'm like, oh, mate, come on, what's that mean? It's like, how much does it cost?
3 months ago, don't use acronyms like a dick, and now you're walking in over here, hey, how's our CAC today?
Yeah.
He's changed.
Yeah.
Tech founder's changed, isn't he?
So you do conversation, we take the piss out of each other on Slack. So I'm like, oh, what's our CAC this week? And then they're like,
hey, I knew we'd get him again. Knew it.
So there we go. But you've got to learn this stuff, and it's a completely different world to me. So I think leaning on the people in the team. I've also done it with 2 co-founders, because I said I was like, I'm not doing this. If I don't know anything, I'm not doing this on my own. My co-founder, Jamie, he's built apps and he's built affiliate tech products and is quite versed in that. He's equally as well, like, can't write a line of code, but he knows a lot more about it than I do.
Yeah.
So he's sort of been in that world. And then my other co-founder, Chris, is like just a mad like growth marketer, insanely good at like traffic and pulling it off into and building.
Great trio then between the 3 of you for the different skill sets.
That's what we thought is like a really good mix. Is that affiliate? He's got an influencer marketing business over here. Jamie, myself, like, has the sort of up the gains brand. Chris is just like an insane sort of growth marketer. And I was like, well, you put that 3 together, we don't need a marketing department. We have to invest some money in tech and customer success and product and those sorts of things, which is great for us. So that's kind of what we're leaning into.
So you got 10K all without paid ads so far. So you got 10,000 users.
Spent a penny, yeah.
Wow. See, that's powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, we're getting there, man. And that's why, like, we got this early stage raise out of the way, and now we want to come back and we want to raise a little bit more again, to invest in a few more team members, just to kind of like take the responsibility away, but also like hyper specialized in a certain area that we know that we now need, which is probably in sort of paid media, PR, partnerships and those types of things, because that's really where we can lean into. Like, we're growing around about 100 users a day at the moment.
That's good. When we think that's organic at the moment, that's great going, isn't it?
But for us, we're like, there's probably 5-6x on that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's probably 10x on that really with other channels. Because there's only so much that I can do. And also I've probably burnt through a lot of the warmer leads. Now it's about getting those sort of colder leads warm, moving them over, which is a harder job. So we're like, okay, we've kind of said what we need to do. Next phase is like layering in acquisition channels one by one. I'm a big fan of not doing everything at once as well. Like I've always said that everything we've done with Up the Gains is like, let's launch that. Let's get it going. Let's build the processes. Let's systemize it. Okay, now we can launch the next channel. And so I think we'll do the same here. Paid is just so obvious for us because of the audience over this side.
Yeah.
We want to try and bring some of that 500K over. And they probably just need telling about it a few times from a few different angles. So I think paid is probably the first thing we'll move into.
That would also mean that you're not burning your own audience too much because you're only showing it to people in, it's not going to have to go on main feed or sit on stories. It can be, story ads, for example, would be really good. And also when you start using paid, given the audience size you got, you could build really good lookalike audiences very quickly. So then you're attracting people who look like that audience that you've already got, but it's not keep hammering them with the same message.
Exactly.
But you're going to get a certain amount of churn because people are going to be like, well, hang on, what happened to you? You sold out. You just used to give us advice for free. Yeah, I did. And now I can help you more, but I need to tell people about it.
Yeah. But also it's free. So again, that's why we played around with the like hard paywall thing for so long. We've argued about it a lot.
It's hard to get people to try it if they can't try before they buy, especially with something like this.
Yeah. So even a paywall was hard. Was like straight up pay us or there was no free trial.
Yeah.
And we put a free trial in recently, and it's doing a lot better.
Look at Spotify. Spotify is one of the best tech companies in the world, and they still offer freemium into paid. 15 years later. So there's got to be something for that.
Exactly.
You just got to have the pockets are deep enough to justify the freemium to start with, haven't you?
That's our challenge now, is because we still make money off a free user if they use us for cashback,
right?
But because the app does like lots of different things, there's lots of different types of users using it. So there's the education point when they come over to try and get them to use some cashback, try and either do a bill switch or these things, which are actually beneficial to them. They help us, but they help you as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's like playing around with that, getting those numbers up. Is eventually once we grow to the certain point, you kind of want to have the free users sort of covering the costs of the app.
Yeah, of course.
And then premium and paid will allow us to sort of really kick on and reinvest, etc. So that's the name of the game at the moment. It's mad.
Are you enjoying it though? You seem to be like really excited, even though it's a space that you don't really know. And like you said, you could have had a really comfortable life, making great content, helping a bunch of people, being everybody's best mate, doing the gardening and the cooking, getting out of the house when your missus like, just get out of my face for a bit. You've gone, the complete opposite way, but are you enjoying it?
I was at the beginning for I was obsessed again. I was back in that mind frame, and then we had a few I can't talk about it too much, but there was a couple of ongoing little things with someone that joined and then just no longer with us, and that threw me. I decided to like layer on moving house, had family like members pass and everything sort of hit within a really short time frame. And then I started really resenting it because we actually wanted it to come out in November last year.
Oh, right.
It came out in May this year. And so that sort of 4 or 5 months was really tough. And then it came out, and that first few weeks was again really, really tough because everything breaks when you.
Of course, it does. So you're putting loads of water through the pipes. You're going to find where the leaks are.
Exactly. Yeah, Yeah, more leaks than I would have wanted.
Yeah, of course.
All of that jazz. You go through that whole process, but now it's kicking and running. I'm really enjoying it because it's back. I'm going back to the old me of like, oh, okay, how do I get someone to come from social media across to this? And that's what
old school marketeers kicking again.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, cool. I
remember this.
Yeah, this is what I've been dreaming of doing again, and leaning back into that old me. As we were saying before, I'm finding a tough balance of like, I don't always want to. How do I like get people over? And this is a new challenge for me. How do I get people over without selling to them 24/7? I don't want every post to be like, download the app, download the app, download the app, because it's just going to be like, and eventually it's just like, go away. Like, and then you've burned that whole audience. So now I'm finding the balance of like trying to mix the two together. And it's quite interesting.
Well, I've been watching your socials for a bit. I've been a big fan of what you're doing. I think you speak common sense in a world where it's all very confusing.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I think what you are building with Gains app is admirable. I think it's going to be one hell of a journey, one hell of a challenge, but I think your whole desire to get Britain financially fit, I can see that you're doing it. I can see that you come at it with a good energy and a good ethos. And I think I can see why so many people have bought into you personally, the real version of you.
Thanks, man.
Not Party Sammie.
Yeah. Still in there.
He's still in there.
Comes out a few times a year.
Yeah, might come out this afternoon. Sunshine in London. I've been told to stay at the house all day. Okay, I can do that.
But likewise, mate, honestly, I've been tuning into you and James for God knows how long. I think when I first stumbled across you, it was probably those COVID times and you two were sitting in that big hall. Is that right? James Sinclair?
Oh, God, yeah. We did we relaunched his podcast in 2019. Yeah, it would have been in the first 15 episodes with me, him and Chuds chatting absolute hot air. Then he was like, you two are rubbish, I'm doing this by myself. We're like, cool, that suits us.
When did he do that?
We done first 15 episodes where we would just like talk, we'd just get together and talk bollocks about business. And he was like, because we called it the business broadcast, and he was like, I want it to sound like a news jingle and all this stuff. So we formatted it in that way. And then we were watching the content back and it was like, what are we even talking about here? It's me and Chuds talking about, the fiscal policies of having loads of staff. I'm like, Chuds works for you and I work for Jim at that point. I was like, we can't talk about this. And then he went into that coaching model. So that's evolution and growth. And he's, again, someone who I think is testament to doing the right thing by a group of people over a long period of time, builds up genuine affinity. And that's why, he can fill events with no paid ads and he can run retreats with no paid ads, because he has got that, lifetime of respect from the audience, and say exactly the same thing that you've got.
Yeah, I think, it was always cool meeting people you meet on the internet. I was, when you first starting out in business, you guys were like there, and I was like, oh, that's, really interesting.
I'm not by myself.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of other weirdos doing this.
Yeah, exactly. Because you want to find English people talking about the English stuff and the English way of thinking, right? Because everything in business is always American, isn't it? So
for sure.
It's nice to have that. And so, I think you're doing a great job here, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Where can people go and find more about Gains app and what you're doing and sign up for the free trial?
Yeah. Get on the free trial. You'll make us happy and inflate our numbers before we have to raise some more money. So do help us out.
Now is the time.
No, seriously. Check it out. It's at gainsapp.com. And if you want to come listen to me ramble on about personal finance, we're at Up the Gains Money on pretty much every social media platform going. And we have a podcast called the Money Gains Podcast as well.
We'll link through to all of that. And if you're listening on Spotify, I believe there's a clever little link that I can now link this show to your show.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Don't quote me on that. I know I'm the podcast expert guy, but I've seen this thing and it popped up. I saw it on somebody else's podcast the other day. They just mentioned This American Life. And I was like, how did they do that? So I'm going to work out how to do it, and I'm going to link through to your podcast as well.
Oh, great. And now I've got a job for this afternoon.
Yeah.
So
no, you just got to go to the pub and stay at the house.
Yeah, true.
Come on. Don't be too new Sammie. Old Sammie can come back out for it. But honestly, thank you, mate. I really enjoyed this conversation. I think you're doing something very cool. I look forward to watching the journey.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, pal. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Building the Brand. I genuinely hope that you absolutely love this episode. If you want to click here, there's another great video that you can watch. Or this one here. Oh, I've picked it just for you. It's an absolute banger. Click that one right now. Go on, and I'll see you on the next one.